Hey, what's going on? My name's Ben, and this is part 2 to becoming a genius. Part 2, you have to define your world around you, and you have to understand how to do that. So if you want to define something, it's got to be perfect. There can't be any mistakes, right? So how could you define something, everything? How could you define everything about this here, right? What is it that you could use to define everything about this object, right? People normally want to describe the shape, and that's good. They want to describe what it's made out of, and that's good. They want to describe, does it have properties like, is it magnetic? Is it colored? How does it reflect light? What happens when I shoot a laser at it? What do these things tell me about it? But we haven't even stopped to discuss where it is, or when it is. And we could do that as well, couldn't we? What if we had a bullet from a long time ago, right? What if we had a coin from 3,000 years ago, right? We'd have to note that it was a coin from another time, another region. It could be a Roman coin from a very far, far land away. How did it make it here? Isn't that story of the coin's arrival here significant to it as an object and describing it? Well, I certainly would think so. That's a lot of layers of complexity, isn't it? What if we begin trying to discuss the particles that compose this and how they all left, a point of origin that predates our solar system? How did they all come together in this one space-time? Isn't that journey all the separate journeys of all these atoms, of all these particles, all these waves, these whatever this is? How did it all come together here in this shape, in this structure? Isn't that journey through space and time? Isn't that more significant than anything else? Than all of its properties combined? I would think so, considering that there may be no point to this place other than a story. And the funny thing is, when you define time, right, that's very simple. It's so simple it's almost as if it's based on a linear line that goes forward in time and backward. And space is a lot more complex because we have to define its height, length, and width, right? So that becomes much more complicated. Hold on, I hate the next song, so I'm going to change it because it sucks. No, shut up. It's a quote from Lawrence of Arabia, which is a fucking sick movie. Right? So I'm going to go outside, and I'm going to hit this homemade steamroller. I left my pipe with somebody else again, and I don't really smoke weed that often. So, in lieu of making a good, bong, a lot of times they'll fucking make some nasty, like, apple thing, or they'll make like a, and I got the apples to do it, but I decided to go with this instead because it reminds me of old times. You know what I'm saying? Fucking steamroller. Yeah, okay. Well, so I'm going to continue this story in just a second. First, I want to say some things. Right? Hold on, this song's too quiet. Get louder, song. Oh, I know why it's too quiet. So, now that if we understand that we should define things as time, space, and energy, right? And perhaps there's a fourth dimension, and we would call that meaning, right? We would note that some pieces of matter have greater significance to other pieces of matter, the bullet that shot, Abraham Lincoln, the bullet that shot JFK, right? These pieces of matter had a greater significance in the fate of our world than, a lot of other pieces of matter, The matter in this folding chair that I'm setting stuff on, that's not that important. It doesn't really matter. The matter in that TV over there, the matter in that little Nintendo 64, that doesn't really matter either, right? Or does it? What if it all matters, Let me step inside here. I gotta set this down because I gotta hit this thing. We'll put that shit there. So this is how you hit a steamroller. Damn! That's some good stuff. That tastes great. Anyways, man. Shit. What was I talking about? Oh yeah, time, space, and energy. So if you define all things as time, space, and energy, you'll notice, though, that some pieces of matter matter more. Right? Some pieces of light matter more. What if you see light that illuminates a killer as he's running at you, right? When you say those photons have greater significance to you than, the bathroom light that you accidentally left on all night? Yeah. So, different forms of energy at different parts of time and parts of space have different significance, right? So, the meaning is actually created. There's a meaning that occurs. There are certain atoms that are more responsible for changing events around you. And so meaning is tied to logic, because we can predict what happens in the universe. Do you know what I mean? We can predict, how something will unfold. If I take a bouncy ball and I throw it off the wall, I can predict where it's going to go with a good degree of accuracy, and I can probably build a machine that can do it perfectly. I can probably build a robot that can catch a ball when it throws off of a wall perfectly. But can I teach that robot to learn? No. Because robots don't see in fractals, and they never will. And they can't see in fractals, right? We're basically designed to read space, time, energy, and meaning. Which is why it's so easy for us to learn things, right? I don't know what an ionic defibrillator is, okay? But if you show me one, I'll probably be able to pick out some others. And if you show me some others, I'll probably be able to pick them out. Like that. Right? So, I can learn what it is. And it's not going to be hard, I just have to compare it to some other things. Let me give you an example. Let's say that you're cooking eggs. And you use a spatula, right? Now you'll see that spatula laid out flat, as you would normally see it, right? You look down at it. Put it in the dish washer, or put it in the sink, what happens, right? It sticks out. You notice that? And you sometimes can't see it because the shape, the geometry that you're looking at is completely different. You're looking at it top down. You're looking at it from height down. And normally, you're only used to seeing it from, planar, over the top. It laid out in a flat design. My cat's looking at me telling me I'm doing this wrong. But the point is, if you, for instance, drive down the road and you see, an image coming from one direction, you won't necessarily recognize the area you're at if you approach from the opposite direction. Well, if I go north down the road and I recognize a building, I go, oh, because I've driven north before. But if I drive south, it doesn't look the same. different geometry. You see, mathematically, you actually see in the fourth dimension, right? You do. You see x4. Because you see mathematically, to put all of the data into a graph, you need 4 lines, 4 axes, right? That's why it's such a big thing. There's 4 dimensions that you have to take into account. Time, where you are in time. Space, where you are in space-time. Energy, what the fuck is it? And, of course, meaning. What is its significance upon its environment? What is its environment's significance upon it? And that is a level of complexity that is nuts. And that's what becoming a god is about. So the reality is you already do math in the fourth dimension. You're not great at it, you know, but you beat the fucking shit out of a computer at that. And we're talking about a binary computer going 1 2 1 2 1 2. It's 1,500 CPUs, or I don't care, 1,000,000,000 billion CPUs. It doesn't matter. It's a binary system. There's no complexity. It's an on and off signal. It's a light switch. And the brain, it's a fucking neuron. Have you ever stopped to go see like a 3D, like a picture, like a scanning microscope image of like the dendrites of the synapses of neurotransmitters? Have you ever learned what the process of sending a signal down a neuron is? Go try it sometime. That shit is crazy, and guess how easy it is? It takes about an hour. Get high and go fucking do it, instead of watching a TV. And if you go do that, right, you're gonna get way fucking smarter. Because you already think in the most complex way. You're like, dude, a god made you, or something. I don't know, because like 10,000 years ago, there's all these pyramids and shit. Something weird happened, something that would be more godlike than us. Right? Think about it. Because 10,000 years ago, there's pyramids under the water. Haven't I already been over this? Isn't this like common knowledge already? You guys finally like wake up to that shit? Egypt's first dynasty 3,000 years ago? Clearly, but what about all the records for the dynasties before that? Does someone just write that for shits and giggles, and like then we find a bunch of those for shits and giggles? I don't think so. There were people there before then, right? But no, they just didn't have civilization. They were monkeys and shit, and they didn't have civilization. That began 3,000 years ago. 3,000 BC. That'd be 5,000 years ago. But, I mean, there's still, and the Jews say the world started like 6,000 years ago, right? And the Christians say the world started 5,000 years ago. That's true, yes. But you have records of Egypt that say it goes back more than 6,000 years. And you have underwater pyramids. And the last time water was low enough in the Mediterranean was at least 8,000 to 9,000 years ago. There's no record along any of the basin that shows that it would be less than 8,000 to 9,000 years. So, no, seriously, it's a statistical constant. All you have to do is take a couple measurements, and then you know pretty much for sure it's 8,000 to 9,000 years. You just go take a few samples, do some scatter work. You go 8,000 to 9,000 fucking years ago. But that's being conservative, actually. That's being generous, and I'm always conservative. It's probably something more like 10,000 to 13,000 years ago. So, I don't know which one it is, but it doesn't really matter. It still proves the point. There's underwater fucking pyramids off the Mediterranean and off the coast of Spain. Look at the Galapagos, dude. That shit was connected just recently. Evolution. Morpheus. Sorry, that's not good to do. So anyways, don't watch TV. Start learning about like stuff, anything you want. You get smarter, you get a lot smarter. Because the thing is, you already think in the fourth dimension. So, anybody can do this shit. There's no actual stupid people. There's just people who are mentally lazy. Much in the same way that, and there are people who are stupid, right? Let me give you an example. Would be, genetics, right? People always say it's genetics, right? Clearly it's genetics. We see it's genetics. But look, like, how many people are fat? A lot of people are fat, right? It's a genetic constant that people, right, consume too much fat and grow fat. We call it an epidemic. But that's normal, because civilizations oftentimes have problems, right? Because nobody really gets along. So, what happens is a collapse occurs, and people who live the collapse do better, right? They don't starve, because they've got some extra weight on them. And so that's actually a really normal thing to have happen. So if you're skinny, it's actually a bad thing, because you end up dying during a starvation period. So, go stock up on some food, is what I'm saying. It's always a good idea. It's never a bad idea. It's like just something you keep around. You keep some food, rice, beans, what the fuck, who cares? And it's normal. Because if you didn't do that, you might die. No, it's kind of scary, but it's just something you do, right? People who tell you don't want to do that, people who want to take your guns away, they're here to hurt you. It's pretty obvious, right? They're like, look what that guy did. He's fucking crazy. We have to take your gun away. And you're like, just calm down. Use your brain, man. It's cool, right? And if you give your gun to him, that's a really bad idea. That's dumb. We would say that was a stupid move, right? That would be like running your car into a light pole. Dumb. You know what I'm saying? But, hey, that's probably not going to happen, so we don't need to go there. Remember, you live in the fourth dimension, and you're smart enough to understand this shit. And in the next video, I'm going to teach you how to put that shit to, like, an adrenaline version. I'm going to teach you how to ramp it up real high. So, yeah.